Say it with me. Brains are weird. They be doing weird stuff. And that's okay. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Here's a place that we advocate for disability inclusion and spread awareness to make the world just a little bit brighter. My name is Janelle, and a quick visual description: I am wearing a plain black shirt, and I have worn this in the past 2 videos, and I don't care because I am batch filming, and I don't care. And the background is that I'm here in my room. Today I want to talk about a topic that doesn't really get discussed a whole lot, but I think will be really helpful for those once we kind of get into it. So let's get into it. There's a term that is referred to disabilities as dynamic disabilities. Now what that means is that your symptoms or how your disability presents fluctuates from day to day, week to week, hour to hour even. So for example, I guess the opposite of that would be like a static disability. So, I don't think it's truly a 100% static disability, but if we're looking in the terms of how the world views people with disabilities, if somebody is an amputee, even no, because they still have days with like more phantom pain than others. But in the terms of how people view the world with a disability, people with disabilities, some of the more physical disabilities that people can see and are apparent and can assume, oh yeah, that person is disabled, would be more static, quote unquote. And I use that really lightly because, like I said, no disability is 100% static all the time. Dynamic disabilities usually happen more in hidden disabilities, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, and things like that. So, for example, if you watch some videos on other days, I might not be ticking as much in those videos as I am in this video. And that's because on that day when I filmed 3 or 4 different videos in one go, just because my setup is already here, I might as well, knock them out. I was having a really mild tick day and wasn't ticking as much, or didn't really tick in between, or I didn't really tick in my sentences, and I was able to just kind of cut them out super simple compared to today and the past 2 videos that I've posted about, you see more ticks, more apparent, that are happening in the middle of my sentences. that's a, a little that's a little harder for me to cut out, so I just leave them in. That's a great example because somebody could see me in real life walking about. We'll just use an example of going to the movie theaters. I could go to the movie theaters with my friends and sit through a whole movie and maybe only tick like a few times before the movie starts or like at the beginning, and then once I get really focused into it, my tics will kind of fade away for the rest of the movie. But there are other days where that is not possible. So that's an example of something with Tourette syndrome, about how it can be dynamic because tics tend to wax and wane or increase and decrease for periods of time, whether it's hours at a time, days, months, whatever. The same can be said, like I said, about chronic illnesses and autoimmune disorders. And I used the amputee example earlier, but as I've followed people and have become more educated on it, I would not say that it's 100% static, because there are easier days, harder days, days where they have more phantom pain than others. So there is dynamicness to that disability as well. So yeah, other chronic conditions, I think about like autoimmune conditions where you have like flare-ups or other types of conditions with flare-ups. That's literally a dynamic thing. It moves and shifts. It's a flare-up, and then your symptoms may stabilize a little bit. So it's okay. What I've found and what I've realized when listening to people talk about their dynamic disability or seeing videos about it, is that a lot of us struggle and deal with imposter syndrome, right? We feel like there's something about us. Even to this day, there will still be days where I'm like, dang, like I didn't really tick that much today. Like, do I really have Tourette's? Like, yes, I do, because there are other moments, and you probably know what I'm talking about if you've dealt with your condition long enough, where you have a flare up, or you have a really bad day, or I start having a tic attack, and it's like, no, I literally cannot stop what I'm doing. I need to remember this moment for the next time I question if I have this disability, because if I wanted to stop, I would. I don't appreciate banging on the table and my keyboard or having the tick where I smack myself in the face. And if I could stop, I would. So clearly it's a thing. But yeah, I don't know. Like there's times that you feel like you're like doing okay, or you feel like you're doing good, and in those moments you feel like, I don't know, like I was having a lot of issues the other day, and now I'm out with friends, now I'm doing things, and I always talk about how I can't always do stuff, but yet here I am, like, what is going on? And that imposter syndrome kind of exists there. On the contrary end, there are days where your symptoms are acting up a lot, and you still feel that imposter syndrome, where you feel like, am I faking this? Like, am I exaggerating this? It wasn't too bad the other day when I was out with my friends, or it wasn't too bad the other day when I was watching a movie, or this wasn't really an issue when I was at work, and now all of a sudden I'm having a flare up. It's lasted a long time. Now all of a sudden I'm having an increase in tics. Now all of a sudden, my phantom pain is really, bad. Like, and you feel that imposter syndrome. It goes either way, whether your condition is kind of more in the waning stage where you're not dealing with symptoms too much and it's not impacting your day too much, or where you're dealing with your symptoms a lot and it is impacting your day a lot. It still pops up. But I think knowing that the disabilities have a lot of intricacies in them, right? They're very complex. So there are up and down days. Just like in our moods, right? You have times where you're feeling great, feeling meh, feeling not so great. And it shifts throughout the day. Same with your disability. And it doesn't mean that you're faking anything. It doesn't mean that you're an imposter. It doesn't mean that you're doing anything on purpose or exaggerating anything. And I think once I realized that, it was pretty freeing for me because I dealt with that a lot whenever I had a little bit of tics, and then whenever I had a lot of tics, I would think, ooh, I don't know what's going on with me. Is this me doing this on purpose or whatever? I know it also pops up with if you have a condition that causes you to like pick up, so for example, with Tourette syndrome, um, if you're around other people with tics or just around other people doing a certain action or a certain movement or certain sound, your tics will like pick up on that and it will become a tic. So if you have another type of condition where you kind of echo what somebody's saying or doing, and then you feel like, ooh, it definitely feels like you're like, what is going on? Like that person started snapping and now I'm snapping. Like, and I'm saying, oh no, it's a tic. I can't help it. Like, what is wrong with you? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. It's what your condition does, right? Like I said, it's very complex. There's a lot of intricacies, and it doesn't mean that you are faking it or an imposter. Just like you could be around somebody who's doing stuff and you don't copy what they're doing, and it doesn't mean that, just because it's happened in the past where you did copy them and now you're not, that you're faking it. Not at all. It's weird. Brains are weird. That's my motto now. Brains are weird. Brains be doing what they want to do. And if they want to copy somebody, that's what they're going to do. If they don't want to copy somebody, that's what they're going to do. It's not a conscious thing. It's just what your condition is doing. I think the issue with sometimes having dynamic disabilities, if it's not within yourself with an imposter syndrome, it can kind of be shown outwardly towards you, like from other people, whether that be your friends, your family, your teachers, your employers, your employers, your coworkers. Sometimes they notice stuff about how your disability has changed and shifted. And for an example, you say that you're, chronically ill or you have this chronic illness, but like you didn't seem ill yesterday. It's like, I'm not faking this, like I've heard people say like, I'm not pretending to be sick, I'm pretending to be fine. When you see me being fine, it's me saying we're all good, even though I'm not. And then there are some days where I really cannot pretend. And so that's the life of being chronically ill. And people sometimes don't get it, obviously. So sometimes you kind of face that from other people, because they just don't understand your condition, they don't understand that things can be more dynamic versus something that's a little more static. I gotta think of like a better example of like a static disability, because of course there's intricacies in it all, but I mean in the way that people that are not disabled view disabled people. The people who have hidden disabilities, I think, are the ones that more likely have a dynamic complex that others don't understand to it. I think it's easier if you see somebody who is an amputee without a leg or an arm to be like, oh, gotta help you, even though they don't necessarily need the help. For just non-disabled people, in their brain, like they just, it's something they constantly may see, so they're constantly reminded that that person is disabled, and it feels to them, to the non-disabled person, a little more static. But like I said, in reality, no, it's probably not. And so I feel like when we have hidden disabilities, when people don't know, when you're standing in a grocery store line and people don't realize why you're doing what you're doing, or don't realize that you're parking in a handicap stall, or that you are parking in a handicap spot, and just because they can't see your disability, they don't realize maybe you have long COVID and you get fatigued really easily or something like that. It's harder for people to like pick up on and know that some days may be good, some days may not be good, and it's weird. Brains are weird. Brains are weird. They'll be doing weird stuff. And if you are facing that from other people, like from your boss or your teacher, I would hope that um, you would be able to like talk about it a little bit more with your boss or your teacher, and kind of explain that that's part of the disabilities, that there are good days and bad days, and not just days. There might be good, I won't say good and bad because it's not necessarily good and bad, but there might be hours where your symptoms are low or it's not as disabling to your life, and there might be another in the next hour where it is more disabling and more, like inflicting with what you need to do in your life. So it's not always just day to day either. It might be hour to hour. If you're trying to figure out how to disclose something to somebody, like at school or at work, or you're trying to weigh the pros and cons, I've made a video about both of those that you can watch. I'll link it there for you to watch, so that you can kind of help judge for yourself and make a decision on if you want to disclose, and if you do, how, some ideas on how you could do that. Can't believe I've gotten this far into the video without mentioning this. That also includes people that are part-time mobility aid users. I've seen so many times people say stuff about that, and it drives me nuts, because there are sometimes, like I said, where your symptoms may be not as disabling and you can get about without your mobility aid. And then there are other times where your disability is a little more disabling and your symptoms are a little more ramped up and you need to use a cane, a walker, a wheelchair. Do not listen to the people that will sit there and say, well, if you can walk, you don't need that. Skirt. You can walk. Do you use a bike because it's convenient? Have you been on a scooter because it's convenient? Have you been on rollerblades because it's convenient? Have you used any type of wheels for enjoyment, for entertainment? So why are you coming at me for using it because it's convenient? That's what you need to say to them, because I cannot. I am not a part-time mobility user. Well, no, I am. When I have flare-ups in my ankle for my arthritis, I will use a cane or crutches. Mostly, I don't go out because it's bad and it's hurting, so I just stay and rest. But I know if I went out and about in public, I would be trying to not whack people for saying dumb stuff like that. It does not make any sense. Do not let people bully you into not using your mobility aids, whether it's because they don't think you should use one, or you're too young to use one, or whatever. Do not let people tell you what to use or what not to use when they don't know anything and they're not in your body knowing how your body feels. If it is something that is helpful and is convenient to be able to get things done, then use it. And there might be other days where you are like, actually, I'm good. We're just going to a quick stop here. I don't need that. That's fine too. It's part of having a dynamic disability. Say it with me. Brains are weird. They be doing weird stuff. And that's okay. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have anything that you, any other thing you want to add to the conversation, any other experiences you've had with having a dynamic disability, or if you learned something new, go ahead and put those down in the comments. I love seeing what you got out of it. I love seeing your favorite parts. Please like, subscribe, and share with somebody else to help make the world just a little bit brighter. Thanks, guys. Shine bright.